Hello, this is the Viking Initiative. Still about the AP Calc BC part. We're gonna go over some of those inverse derivatives today. It is like common throughout the MCQ and FRQ. Not a lot of the parts, but students often get confused. So yeah, let's have a look. So first of all, we gotta define an inverse function. So if the function g is the inverse function of a function f, then f of g of x is x. And then g of f of x is also x, so it kind of unties a function, such as like if I give you an example like y is x minus 4, then x is y plus 4 is the function, and then if you plug in those two equations, you will always get x. And then the function g is denoted by like f to the negative 1, which is like f inverse in this case. So understanding the inverse function, like the derivative formula is the derivative of the inverse is 1 over the derivative of the inverse of the f of the derivative of inverse of the x. I know I'm reading it wrong, but I'm pretty sure you guys can understand this. If you want to prove, just go back here and then look at the f of g of x and then plug in the product formula, and then you will get exactly what I get. And then also, so this is a simple example where f of x, you're given as x to the third plus x, and f of 2 is 10, whereas the derivative of f of 2 is 13, so we have f of negative, so we want to find f of negative 1's derivative of 10. So we first plug in the formula. The derivative of f of negative 1, the inverse of f to 10, is 1 over this, and then since we know f of 2 is 10, so the inverse of f of 10 is 2. So thus the derivative of this is 1 over the derivative of f of 2, which is 1 over 13 as the example given. Yeah. Here, this one, another simple example, you basically just you plug the numbers in. So we have f of x is x to the power of 2 plus 1, and then f of 3 is 10, and then we want to see like the derivative of inverse of f to the 10, and then the solution, and then since we know f of negative 1 of 10 is 3, because you can either go from this equation or it basically just told you that. So it tells you so the derivative is 1 over f of 3, if you plug in that equation, if you remember. And then what's the derivative of f of 3? You first do the derivative of f of x, which is 2x, and then so you plug 3 in, 2x2 times 3 is 6, which will result you 1 over 6. And then, yeah, we're moving on to some AP questions. This is a common multiple choice, sort of. If you're giving like f of x is x 3x squared minus x, and then g of x is the inverse of f of x, then the derivative of g of 10, which you can see is, first of all, we're gonna find out like what is g of 10. So what is the inverse of f of 10? If we want to plug in that equation, right? So we gotta set equal 10 equals to x 3x squared minus x, because 10 in this case is y, which is f of x. And then we solve for that, we'll get x is either 2 or negative 5 over 3. Now either we know that, we can plug in this equation. See, the derivative of g of 10, which is derivative of f of 2, is 1 over 11. Well, like, you may have questions such as like, why couldn't we use negative 5 over 3 in this case? Why couldn't we use 5 over 3 in this case? Because 3x squared minus x, it gotta be 1 to 1. Like, so if it's gotta be 1 to 1, then it must be symmetrical. We only wanted the positive value. If we get the negatives, then it's not 1 to 1. Since you all know how to graph a quadratic, you guys can graph it yourself. Yeah. And then also this is the FAQ about the AP stuff. So it is very long. Like, this is a grid. We're giving x, f of x, the inverse of the derivative of f of x, g of x, and then derivative of g of x. And then it tells you the function f or g are differentiable for all reals. The table gives values of functions and their first derivatives as the negative value of x, and then it asks if g of g to the -1 is the inverse function of a g. Write an equation of the line tangent to the graph y equals to g -1 at x equals to 2. So we first got to plug it in. What is like the inverse of g at 2? So when g of x is 2, right? Okay, never mind. You guys should try it yourself because I feel you guys can do this. And then I'm gonna go to answer key 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first of all, reading the graph, we know g of 1 is 2. So here, when x is 1, g of x is 2. Simple, right? So the inverse of g of 2 is 1. It's just undoing this. This is just the other way around. And then we plug in that equation. The derivative of the inverse of g of 2 is this, and then which is the derivative of g of 1, which is the derivative of g of 1 is 5, which we know, which will give you 1 over 5. And then we plug in the equation, because at that time, x equals to 2, which you tell. We can know is 5 over 1 of times x minus 2. Why is it 1 and minus 1 here? Because at this time, well, y in here, when this x is 2, this y is 1, which we're getting. So y minus 1 is 1 over 5 times x minus 2. Yeah, those two are like basically the types of question what you could see, both FRQ and MCQs. And then, yeah, if you have any more questions, you feel free to visit our Viking Initiative website and then join our AP Calculus BC study group there. We'll have tutors responding to you on WhatsApp for more information if you have questions. Just thank you so much. And then see you.